Hello everyone, this is Don'tly Photoshop 2021 video course. Today we come to learn the management and modification of selection, as well as the simple use of selection method. When we create a new selection, if we hold down Shift, we will draw a square no matter how we drag it. And if we want to get rid of the selection, all we have to do is press Ctrl+D. Let's draw another rectangle, okay? And then we'll have a square selection. We can directly hold down the selection tool above the selection to drag and move the location of the selection. What should we do if we want to modify the selection? We can modify the selection by clicking the transform selection. If we hold down the alternate, we can drag a single anchor or adjust it as a whole. If we hold down the Shift, we can adjust it irregularly. Now, we transform it and align it with the image below. Then press Enter to confirm. Then the selection is done. Click Ctrl+J, can copy the layers. That's how we copy everything in the selection. Someone asked, can I click Ctrl+T to transform selection? If we press Ctrl+T now, what will happen? Let's try it. There's also the same button of transformation. Then we can transform it directly. You will see that the selected area is changed directly. It moves the layer instead of just changing the selection. The whole area will change and can move around. If we press Confirm now, we'll find that the whole area has changed, not just the selected. Well, these are operations on a selection by directly using the Ctrl+T free transform. There's a plus-minus relationship between selections. For example, now we use the rectangular marquee tool to create a selection. So let's see, in the options bar, it actually has 4 buttons here. Let's look at these 4 buttons. The first button is called New Selection, which means that the selection before a new selection is created is no longer there. For example, now we have a square selection. Let's create a new selection elsewhere, and if we drag another one out, it won't be there before. If we drag another one in a new place, the old one will not be there. And that's the first option, which is called New Selection. The default option is this, and the second is called Add Selection. So the previous selection is not going to disappear. And if we bring another selection here, you see, there are 2 selections. We add a third selection, and now we can see that these 2 selections are fused together. This is the additive relationship between the selections. The third bottom minus is to exclude some parts. For example, I want to exclude the top part of it. Instead of adding, it's subtracting the selection. Well, there's the fourth part, the intersection part, which is rarely used. It is the intersection between the old and the new that will be preserved. For example, if I split in 2 from the middle, then only the right-hand side is left. Everything else is gone, okay? That's the addition and subtraction of the selection. There are many other selection tools. They all have such addition and subtraction that can be used. This is a very basic selection matching step. Let's have a look at some transformations in the selection. First, we're going to frame the picture and zoom in, and then you're gonna see that a little bit of white has been picked out. Now we can use the transform selection, okay, and move the border inside. Let's look at the options. Here are the modifications. There are 5 options in the modifications: border, smooth, expansion, shrinkage, and feather. We can look at the border first. Click on the border to select the number of pixels. The default is 4 pixels. Let's click Enter to see what it looks like. Now we can see it's expanding 2 units on either side of the axis. A total of 4 pixels became the rest of its selection. We're going to isolate it now and take a look at it through the clipping layers. Wow, the boundary below disappears. This is matting. Get rid of the 4 pixel border. Okay, this is the border option. Let's look at the second option called Smooth. Frame the moon first, then click the color range, select yellow, and adjust the tolerance. Enter. We can see that its border is crooked and bumpy. Then if we choose the modification in it and smooth it, pay attention to the change of border. Sampling radius is 3 pixels. Let's click enter. A lot of bumpy parts are gone and become smooth, which is the meanings of smooth option. Next, we'll look at the expansion and shrinkage. The meaning of expansion is very straightforward. For example, this is the size of the constituency right now. Let's look at the details. We now choose to modify the extension, expand 3 pixels. Then the entire selection extends 3 pixels outward. Look, this is the extension of modification. So how about choosing to modify and shrink? Also, just shrink several pixels inward, like shrinking 3 pixels. Okay, this is the option of expansion and shrinkage. Alright, let's look at the last modification called feather. For example, let's pick one part now. The moon is a good choice. Let's click the quick selection tool, then click select the feather in the modification. Its shortcut key is Shift plus F6. The feathering value is 3 pixels. You can see the surrounding becomes lighter. We put it on this background and you can see its borders with hazy parts. This part is the feathering value we just set. Obscure parts of 3 pixels. This hazy border is called the feathering value, which is generally intended to make this part of the matting better integrated with the environment. Featuring values can be set not only after matting, but also directly when you select the selector tool. The rectangle box tool, the quick selection tool, and the magic wand that can be set in advance. Then we use the material to make a simple example. Look at this picture. If we want to extract the little girl from the picture, first unlock and then select the object box tool to automatically frame the little girl box. Click Ctrl plus J to copy the select area and then drag the material onto the image. Ctrl plus T to adjust the size. Then enter. A simple and basic matting and jigsaw process is completed. Alright guys, this course we've been talking about some common methods and some tools that include creating selections and then adjusting them, and then separate the selection into a new layer. Then we're done. So, the content of this course has been able to deal with most matting situations, but there are still some complex situations. For example, there is little or no obvious difference between the background and the content we want to mat. There are complex borders like hair matting. How should we deal with the above situations? Well, I'll explain it to you in the next course. See you next time.